Hey guys and girls, before you get too interested in this video, be sure to subscribe to Jimmy Houston Outdoors YouTube. Hit that subscribe button right now. Hit that little bell, it'll ding every time we post a video. And remember, jimmyhouston.com for some really cool merchandise. Hey guys and gals, let's run around and look at a few pecan trees. Let's visit 3 or 4 of the groves and see what the pecans look like. You know, we're not but about a month away from being able to start harvesting pecans, maybe a little bit over a month. We'll actually start taking orders the 1st of October, but we won't be shipping till about the end of October, maybe in the first week or two into November before we have any pecans to ship. But we've been trimming some of the trees back a little bit so we can get the tractor down underneath them and get the shaker down under there a little bit easier and run the pecan pecan picker-upper. That's exactly what it is, a pecan picker-upper. So let's just pull in here and look at this little group of trees right here. These trees are just inside our inside high fence, and these trees you can see are some of them that Apache's been really working on. And he cut a lot of the low-hanging limbs. One of the problems that you have with a pecan tree is that once the limbs get to hanging, they get full of fruit, they're down pretty low. Now, a lot of the trees we won't be able to get up there and look at because we did just exactly this. You can see where he's cut all of these lower limbs down, and we'll go by a pile and look at it here in a minute. But there's a lot of limbs. I mean, when we cut these, or when Apache cut them this past weekend, this was just a jungle in here of pecan limbs that he'd cut down, and you can see that a lot of them were really good size. You can look up there like on this tree right here. There's a lot of really good sized limbs that was cut down there. And actually we're losing quite a few pecans. All of those lower limbs that had pecans on them, and well, obviously they're just cut down and those pecans are not going to finish ripening and being ready to. We'll go over here and you can see right over here. Now here's a big stack of limbs. We can just kind of take a look at that right there, and there's several big piles of these, and these are the what we trimmed this past week off of here. And I don't know, we might be able to get up there kind of close somewhere and see if we have very many pecans hanging on those. Might be able to see this limb down here. Yeah, we kind of take a look here, and I'll just try to break that off. Easier said than done. Break that off right there, and you can see that there's the size of the pecans right now. They're getting up there fairly decent size, and but those have since died because he trimmed them off this weekend, and all the pecans we see on here are going to be dead. Now, I don't know if the animals will probably eat those. Something will probably eat them, but they trimmed these just 3 or 4 or 5 days ago. And we've got some big stacks of these limbs, and all of the pecans that were on here, those obviously are not going to be any good. These are just pecans that we sort of sacrificed by trimming these trees. And we'll try to pull down here and find some that's still hanging on a tree and take a look at those. Now, we will actually come in here and brush hog all of this, make this look like a park. You can see it's grown up quite a bit. One of the reasons we have to trim those trees is to be able to get the tractor in here, be able to get the tractor down in here and drive underneath them. And when you got all these limbs, you can't drive underneath them. So we trim a lot of the lower limbs. We're getting down here, and some of it we haven't trimmed yet, where we'll be able to maybe look at. Most where we've trimmed, the pecans are way up too high. We really can't get to them and take a look at them right now. We'll try to get over here and find some that maybe we can see what they look like on the tree. Not every tree made, but a lot of our trees are really full of pecans this year, and hopefully it's going to be a good year. We'll have to wait and see. Not any right there. We'll look at 3 or 4 different groves or bunches of trees and see what we can find. Not finding any low-hanging limbs with anything on it that I can get to right now. Well, we don't hardly have any limbs low enough to look at. Well, here's this is that's just a couple right there, but you can see those are still green. They still got quite a bit of growing left to do. I was seeing some up above here, but I can't really reach those, so I don't really have too many low limbs hanging around that I can actually find. Let me see if I can pull this limb down right here a little bit. It should have some hanging on it. Oh yeah, I can just a little bit. It's not very good. I can't get a hold of it. It's not very good. There's a few pecans on that, not a lot, but there's a few right there. I want to find some little clusters, but haven't been able to find any limbs hanging down low enough. You can see the limb that we've trimmed down around these trees where we really just don't have that many limbs hanging down low. Well, here's a limb right here. It's got a few. Here's another one right up here. It's got a nice little cluster on it. This is what you really want. That's a cluster of 4 right there. And as you go on up the tree, you'll find clusters of 4s like that. There's a cluster of 3 right back here behind. And you can see that those pecans are getting pretty big, but they still got a long way to go. They're pretty much liquid. If you were to cut them open right now, they're pretty much liquid inside. They've still got quite a bit of growing, but they're growing pretty fast right now. They're getting bigger, quicker, just every single day. And hopefully we'll find some where they're a little bit thicker than that down lower, but these trees in this grove right here are just not too plentiful at all. Those up there at the front where we trimmed seem to be a little bit better than these back here toward the back. So let's just take off and run over to another one. This is a big food plot right here behind us. I'll kind of wheel around here. This is a big food plot. We'll actually be burning this off pretty quickly here, probably in the next few days, and we're waiting on a couple pallets, about 3 pallets of Ocmulgee River Buckmaker food plot. We'll plant a big food plot. This is one we call the elk field right here, and it's a really large food plot. About all of what you see that's kind of gray looking or sage looking, dead looking, is all left over from a spring plot, and we'll burn this. We're actually not going to actually kill everything underneath it. We're just going to burn it down and then plant over the burn. And in the fall of the year, I think it might be a little bit better to do that. And we'll have some weeds come up in there, and we'll have some Johnson grass come up in there, but we'll put neutral plot on it. Once we get a little bit of green, we'll put neutral plot on there, which is a fertilizer that also attracts deer. And it's just a real good to make your plots really, really big. We got more hay this year than we've ever got. We hayed this field right here. But you can see that it's grown up quite a bit after the hay, and we'll go in here and burn this off and replant that here really in the next week or 2. We'd plant right now if we had rain, but we've had no rain, so we're waiting until we have a little bit of rain to forecast before we start putting that seed in the ground. And like any farmer, put the seed in the ground and hope we get rain. Hope we get rain. Okay, here is what I've been wanting to look for right here. This is what you want to find. Now this tree is loaded. You can see those pecans, how large they are and how many they are. This is one low-hanging limb right here, and it is absolutely, there's a cluster of 3, there's a cluster of 3, 4, 5, another cluster of 3, another cluster of 3. As you move on up the limb, a cluster of 4. Oh, you look over there, this little limb right here has got it's got quite a few pecans on it, and every limb in this tree all the way up, and this is a big giant tree, and we hayed around here, and that's why we got grass is thick here and it's not so thick over here. This is what we're looking for right here, and hopefully we've got several hundred trees that are just like this right here, and we'll be producing lots and lots and lots of giant pecans. And that's what you want, is you want multiple clusters like that, 3 and 4 and 5 in a cluster. That's exactly what you're looking for. And as you can move around and see here, this tree is just loaded in pecans. And this is exactly what you want. We come over here and look at another limb. Again, you see there, right there, and there's a bad pecan there, probably a case bear or something. I don't see yeah, it looks like a hole right there. That's a case bear. And we spray in the spring, we spray in the fall. You look off out here, the leaves are gonna all fall off of these, of course, before we harvest them. And probably the deer have been eating some of these low-hanging ones. You see that little cluster there of 5 pecans? Over here, a cluster of 2, 4, 6 pecans, just a little limb, just a little tiny limb like that. And this tree is going to be like this all the way around. If we just looked all over the tree, when you shake this tree, there's going to be nuts on the ground everywhere. You see there that, and probably what's happened here is the deer are just eating the limbs, the leaves off down low. And that's what this is right here, why some of them don't have any leaves on them. But we continue to go around the tree, the same thing. Look at that nice cluster there, 3, 6. There's another cluster of 6, cluster of 6. These are the big clusters you like. Look at this little limb right here. And that's one of the reasons. Now, as these get larger, these pecans will just about double in size before we shake this tree. They'll be about twice this big. And you can see they're just absolutely loaded. It's exactly what we want to be looking at. And one of the things when you get the pecans from us, from Jimmy Houston Pecans, and now we're not going to have a Jimmy Houston Pecan website this year. It'll be just jimmyhouston.com, the same place that you order hats and T-shirts and rods and reels and Lucky Strike fishing lures and any of the Jimmy Houston merchandise, jimmyhouston.com. We will have the pecans up there also. So you just go to jimmyhouston.com and you can check and see what the pecans are. I don't know what the price will be this year, the market price. We've actually held them the same for about the last 3 years, and we just kind of bared the increase in price ourselves. But we'll be taking orders October 1 and shipping shortly thereafter, probably toward the end of October. Might be able to ship a little bit early in October. I mean, I don't know. It all just depends on what happens between now and then. But as we go around this tree, it's just everywhere. And these are all low-hanging fruit, what you call low-hanging fruit. Every limb you look at, every limb you pull down is just pecans, 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 pecans. That just looks lovely to me. That just absolutely looks lovely. And some trees will produce like this 3 or 4 years in a row, and then they won't produce hardly at all for a year or two. Last year was horrible. As we walk around this tree right here, it just doesn't matter. Every single limb, as these pecans get larger and heavier, those limbs are going to hang lower. And you look up through there, you can see they're just shining like dimes or quarters. They're shining like dimes or quarters. I don't know, but we ship everything fresh. We don't wait and freeze them and ship later in the year. It's all to get them November and December, and maybe a week or two into January. Once we run out of the fresh pecans, and we'll sell most of our pecans to processors, but we're starting to sell more and more through the internet, and just every limb you look at on this tree is like this. I wished I had 1,000 trees just like this one. But we've got a lot. We've probably got close to 1,000 trees, but not all of them are going to be good. If all of them produce like this, Jimmy would be very happy and Chris would get a nice Christmas present. Let's go find some more trees look like this one. Oh, I love this tree. This particular grove right here we call Sherry's Park, and it's just absolutely a beautiful pecan grove. We have trimmed in this grove also, so we probably really won't be able to see many pecans because we don't have any limbs hanging down low. Where we can actually find the pecans is some areas where we still have to brush hog and do a lot of cleaning up before we harvest. This area here is on the main road leading back to the house, and so we actually manicure this and mow this Sherry's Park area with a riding lawnmower. We don't even use a brush hog out there. We use an actual riding lawnmower, 60-inch cut. And it's pretty good size, but we keep it looking beautiful because we want it that way. We've trimmed these trees in here, so you see there's no low-hanging limbs. There's not anything. It's just a beautiful little pecan orchard right here. And these are old, mature trees, been here for a long, long time. We're gonna go look at some baby trees also, but this will give you an idea how beautiful pecan trees are as far as just a yard. I mean, if you had a house sitting right in the middle of this, it'd just be a beautiful place. Plenty of shade everywhere. Pecan trees make big, beautiful shade trees, and just one of the prettiest places on the ranch right here, Sherry's Park. We call this Pecan Grove particular area right here, we call it Ivy League, because a lot of the trees in this Pecan Grove here have poison ivy on them. And we got a deer stand up 1 or 2 of these trees, a bow stand, and that poison ivy is, you gotta be real careful of. It's not fun. I don't see too many pecans on that tree. Here's another in this grove right here. This is the one that's hanging down and got a lot of leaves off of it, so we can see the pecans. There's a lot more pecans on these trees than what you might look at. When you find one that's got kind of the limbs, the leaves scraped off or eaten off of them, you begin to see quite a few clusters of pecans. These pecans aren't quite as large as they were on that tree we looked at just a little while ago, but that tree there has got a lot of pecans on it. And this particular grove right here kind of wraps around that big field, and it's got trees all the way around to that other side. And so we'll just kind of take a little drive through here and kind of look and see what we might find. We have several what we call rogue pecan trees that seem to do pretty good, and they just sort of grow out here by themselves. There's about 3 or 4 trees right here, and let's take a look. Yeah, they're good. Look at this guy right here. These aren't very big pecans. These are native pecans right here. Some of what we've been looking at has been improved. These are native pecans, but you can see this tree is absolutely loaded. I don't know how many pecans are on this little end right here, but there's 3. There's a good group of 5 or 6. 3, 5, 6, 7, 3, much there. Just that one little limb out there, and this limb over here is just exactly like it. Just absolutely loaded with pecans. And they're just loaded that way all the way up. And those are going to be good pecans right there. They're going to get about twice that size within the next month before these trees will eventually lose all their leaves, and that's when we shake them. We got about 3 or 4 trees right here. There's another one right over here, another one right over here. These are sort of rogue trees. They're not really in a grove, but they do produce a lot of pecans, and we do shake them. This guy right here is loaded as well. Pull over here and take a look at it, and we'll see that limb has got pecans over it. Now, that's not quite as thick as they were in that other tree, but that doesn't mean that there's not limbs that will be. And I don't know why they do that, but there'll be some limbs that just loaded, other limbs won't have any. It could be a half and a half even. We got another tree up there and another one up there. Now, these areas in here, we'll all brush hog and kind of make it look like a park before we shake pecans. Again, you look at there and you see lots and lots and lots of pecans right there. Lots of pecans. This tree's just all out here by itself. And this is a rogue tree way off out here, and that may be too small yet to have hardly any pecans on it. A native pecan tree has got to get a lot older than an improved pecan tree. Yeah, it's right up here. Here's another one right up here. We'll look at it just since we're driving around. These are just rogue trees. They're not in a grove or anything, but they produce pecans year after year. They're native pecan trees. Most of the native pecans are sold. We don't sell hardly any native pecans through the internet. Most of these native pecans, this has got a lot of pecans on it too. They're a lot smaller, but they are really, really tasty. You can see that. Let's see if I can get up here close enough to get a hold of some. You can see this has got clusters of it. There's a nice little cluster of 4 or 5. There's a single or 2, a double, some more clusters over here. You can see that those have got quite a bit. Now this one right here, that's got a hole in it. Maybe I think it's got a hole. Probably that's going to be ruined. Now that will be liquid inside. If we was to cut that pecan open, that's probably going to be liquid inside still. See if I've got a knife with me. I know I do. I'll find it in my pocket. I'm a country boy. I got so much stuff in my pocket. Ah, there's a knife. These are the best knives in the world. You change the blades in them. Change the blades in the knives. They're just really good knives. You take that blade out and put a new blade in. You just buy new blades for them. It's called an outdoor edge knife, and get them at Bass Pro. I don't know how many I bought. Everybody in my family's got them. And I want to be real careful here because I don't want to cut myself, and also don't want to cut my steering wheel. See the liquid come out of there? Now that's what they look like now. Then that's beginning to form into a nut, but there's a lot of liquid in there. You see all that liquid that comes out? That's all that liquid that come out here on my when I cut it in two. And they're beginning to form nuts, but they're not. They're still a long way. Now that'll change a lot within the next 30 days. We won't start harvesting these until probably. These will be the latest. Last ones we harvest are the native pecans. Start harvesting improved pecans first. Improved pecans is pretty much what we sell through the internet. But now that's not a very big pecan. Those are small pecans right there. These pecans normally end up in pies. Native pecans, they're much more tasty than an improved pecan, but they're not nearly as large. And a lot of them end up in pies. And we've got the biggest pecan pie factory in the whole world right here, right up the road here, and I guess Paul's Valley, I think it is, but Mrs. Fields. And you can buy those pecan pies in Walmart for $6 or $7 or $8. They're already cooked. All you do is just thaw them out. If you want to stick it in the microwave, stick it in the microwave, just eat them. I mean, they're just absolutely great. And if you'll look at those pecans on the Mrs. Fields, most of them are small. They're not these great big improved pecans. They're little pecans. And a lot of those come from this ranch right here. A lot of them come from all the ranches around here in southern Oklahoma that's got a lot of native pecans. And that's what a native pecan looks like. They're not nearly as large, but they're far more tasty. But everybody likes the big pecans, and that's what we sell mostly through our Jimmy Houston Pecan internet sales, is the improved pecans. But we also, I think we've had on there for the last couple of years an offer where you can buy the native pecans also, but they're just a lot smaller. They're probably 40%, 50% as big as a big improved pecan. But we've got both. Now here's something that we're really, really pleased with. These are baby pecan trees right here. These are all improved pecans, and they're babies. I had about 100 trees here. I've lost probably over the last 4 or 5 years, lost probably about 40 of them. But I've still got a lot of them that are doing really, really good. We got them trimmed up where they're going to go up and make big, big, beautiful trees. They are actually too small to shake. They're not too small to have pecans on them. But when I was up here a while back, I think the freeze got most of the pecans. I'll just kind of cruise through here and see. And the pecans on young trees like this will mostly be up relatively high. And the only thing we do, the pecans off these trees right here, is we'll come up and just kind of hand pick them off ourselves. But I think the freeze got most of these, that really, really bad weather we had. So I don't really think these are going to have much on them. They're not anything that really adds to the pecan crop. You can see that these trees are all planted, I believe, 40 foot apart, 40 foot in every direction. I haven't seen a pecan yet. I had several pecans on these early, but they pretty much have been destroyed. They're pretty much all gone. It's hard to believe when you drive through this little baby pecan tree and you see these here, and when we planted them, they were just sticks. And to think they're going to turn into something like this, that's nature. And that's one thing that, if you don't believe in God, all you got to do is farm a little bit and you'll start believing in God big time. Because something like, and you see where the deer are eating the lower leaves down here. That's what's happening on those trees. That tree there doesn't have hardly any pecans on it. Look it up as high as I can. They don't have any hanging down low at all to speak of. That tree really produces a lot of pecans in some years, but it doesn't look like it's gonna. And these are 3 or 4 rogue pecan trees right back here. This is an old tree. All of these 2 or 3 trees back here are very old trees. They don't have hardly any pecans on them this year. And these are natives also. All of the baby trees here that we have are all. And this is kind of what they start out with, and that's not any good there. We'll replace that with a brand new tree. Now let's take a look at this guy right here. This is another rogue native tree that produces a lot of pecans. Nearly every year it'll produce a lot of pecans. Just take a look at it. It's just sitting right up here by the barn. But you'll look at this one limb right here, and you can see when a tree is good, you can see how good it can be. This one limb, and these pecans are going to be this way all the way up to the top. But you can see those are clusters of 6, 7, 8, 9 in a cluster. That little limb right there has got tons and tons of pecans on it. And you look down through here, you'll see pecans all the way down. Look at them over here. Look at them over here. Everywhere. If you move over here, it's going to be the same. They're just as you go around this tree, you should be able to go all the way around the tree, and you're going to find pecans everywhere. And this one, of course, is in the yard. It's up here by the barn. It's a yard pecan tree, which pecan trees make incredibly great trees to have in your yard because they produce a lot of fruit, obviously, but they produce a lot of shade. They're beautiful. Now, the one bad thing about pecan trees, they are limber. They big limbs break off. Actually, the whole tree comes down so far a lot of times. But you can see it as if you look up through there, the pecans are harder to see as you get further away. But you look up through there, and if you went clear up all the way to the top, you're going to find these limbs just covered and covered and covered in pecans. And with this limb right here, these limbs that's hanging down will be hanging down like this in another month as those pecans double in size. And when they get just right and all the leaves are gone, we shake them. This ground will be covered in pecans. We come in here with our harvester and run around. We might shoot a little video on that and show you when we're harvesting pecans. But it's a fun, exciting time of the year. And we sold as many as 15 tons of pecans off of these trees. In the very best years, have about 30 or 32,000 pounds. 30,000 pounds is 15 tons. That's a lot of pecans. Now, we have years that are almost zero also. We have years that are just so bad, we just can't hardly get any pecans. But that's farming. That's just what farming is. Doesn't matter what you're planting, it doesn't grow every single year. But the pecan trees, we spray them in the spring, spray them in the fall. We take care of them, and they produce a lot of pecans on some years. We're gonna have some of these trees are great this year. Others have none on them at all. But one of the things when you harvest, all these leaves are gone. You come and you look at a pecan tree, it's worth shaking and harvesting or not. If it's not, you just go to the next one. Now, yard trees, for some reason, they pay off a lot, a lot. This is the largest pecan grove that we've got. I have no idea how many trees are in here, and it goes all the way to the county road. You can't even see to the other end of it. It's so far down there. And this has got a mixture of trees in it. A lot of them are native and a lot of them are improved. And we'll see, there'll be a lot of the trees that'll be very, very good. It'll have a lot of pecans on them. This first one we pulled up to look at right here, you just kind of take a look at that right there and see that it's loaded. That tree is absolutely loaded. You see how low those limbs are hanging? And the deer are eating those leaves on the lower limbs. That's why those limbs are bare. The deer are eating those leaves, and they're not eating the pecan, just the leaves. But you can see that thing is absolutely covered. As we drive through here, there's a lot of work. There'll be a ton of work done in this grove right here, because we've done a little haying in the middle, but you can't hay around the trees. So all of these trees, and you can look up in that limb right there, and you can see that when the sun gets just right in the evening, you can see the pecans, they just shine like a new dollar up there. And they just reflect it. You can look at, and at a certain time in the evening, you can drive by and you don't even have to look for pecans. They're just shining. Other times they blend in because they're just about the same color as the leaves. But you can see those clusters in that right there. And as we drive through here, we'll find most of these trees are good. Most of these trees have a lot of pecans on them. But this entire grove, all the way back there and then all the way down about a mile to the road there, all of this is going to have to be cleaned up. We picked limbs up in here all throughout the year because to try to keep it from being so bad, but there's still a lot of limbs on the ground that'll all have to be picked up, put on trailers, piled up, burned. All of this will have to be brush hogged. A tremendous amount of work to do before we get around to actually harvesting the pecans. And you can see again when you look at this tree right here. It's got a lot of pecans on it. Several clusters of pecans right here. Now these are only little clusters of 2 and 3 and 4 pecans, a lot of singles, several clusters on over there. It's got more, but we drive through here and as you see the sun as it begins to get right late here in the evening, we've been driving around for a while. You can see those pecans shining from a distance over there. See, we're still several yards away from those pecans. You can see them shining. As we get up closer to them, you can see that tree is loaded as well. It's got, the limbs are hanging lower to the ground, and you see all of the pecans in there. Those are big pecans. They'll get about twice that big. They'll get about double that size. And they're already large-sized pecans, but they're going to get about twice that size. As we drive through here, most of the trees that we find in this grove are going to have a lot of pecans on them. Some won't, but most of them will have quite a few pecans on them. Hi there. He's lonely. We see him a lot. He loves to hang around in this area. He's relatively tame, as you can see. We're very close to him, but he'll take off running here in a minute. He's just a baby, but he's never with anybody. It's like he's kind of lonely, but he won't run off too far. He'll turn around and look at us. And yeah, there he turned around and looked at us. He always does the same thing all the time. Just a young guy. It's his first horns. I hope you enjoyed that little ride along as I went and inspected some pecan trees. We didn't begin to look at all the pecan trees that we have. We just looked at a few. I've never counted them. I suppose I've got several hundred, probably close to 1,000. Probably don't have 1,000, but probably got somewhere close to that. And I'm going to say that we're going to have kind of a mediocre pecan crop. It's not going to be a year. It's not going to be a bust. We've got a lot of trees that are loaded, absolutely loaded. They're going to produce really, really well. Those pecans will about double in now in the time that we shake the trees. And but we will have plenty of pecans for y'all to get through on the internet out there. JimmyHouston.com is how you're going to be able to order them, or you can give us a call on our pecan phone and we'll take those orders by phone. But you can go in there and look at Jimmy Houston pecan, JimmyHouston.com. We're not going to have a Jimmy Houston pecan website this year, just jimmyhouston.com. You can order all kinds of merchandise there. You can order sunglasses or books or t-shirts, rods and reels, fishing lures, all kinds of things we've got on jimmyhouston.com. But that's where you'll be able to order your pecans also, or at least go in there and look it over. Then if you want, call us on our pecan phone and order. And we're going to start taking those orders about October 1. Be sure to subscribe to Jimmy Houston Outdoors YouTube. We got over 100,000 people on there. I can remember we started this thing a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, and it was so hard just to get to 1,000. And then to 10,000, it was amazing. Now we've got over 100,000, so tell all your friends, Jimmy Houston YouTube. Jimmy Houston YouTube. Great, great channel. Guys and girls, go out there and have you a great one, and remember, I sure do love you.